There are so many opportunities to get work done more efficiently when you combine AI and automation. In fact, earlier this year, I gave a talk at Content Marketing World about combining AI and automation to create unique and on-brand content while improving your workflow. I demonstrated 3 ways that in my company, Content Monsta, I already use AI and automation to accomplish things that we either were not able to do before or would have previously taken us several hours to accomplish. Here's that presentation now on AI, automation, and content. And by the way, be sure to subscribe and catch me at upcoming events because this is a rapidly changing topic and I'm sure I'll have more to share on AI as it changes. But for now, watch this video and learn about using AI and automation for content.
Thank you. All right, let's get some work done. It's a broad topic. Anything with AI today is broad because we're all experimenting. We're all trying to figure out where we fit in this thing. So today I'm talking about AI and automation. And our goal is to get more work done faster, better, that's an important part, and smarter. I'm not going to give you a whole list of tools. One more thing to go home and figure out, oh, wow, is this going to change next week? Do I have to get more budget for some other shiny little tool? That isn't our goal. And there's 3 truths that I hold about AI tools. The first one is that some will be extremely useful. Most will be wasteful because you'll spend time trying out this shiny new object. It'll change next week or it won't work for you. And so we also know there's just far too many for you to learn. I'm not going to give you the next 21 AI tools to use to create content because you already have 300 probably already. If you don't think so, well, I mean, this is the MarTech map. Most of those, if they weren't AI, they will be, they're going to be. And even if I narrow it down to just content, we're still not getting a whole lot better. So where do we start? So first of all, map out your current processes first. Don't start with AI, start with your process. What do you need to get done and in what order? Then think about using AI in the tools you already have. Before looking for a new AI tool, think about the fact that the tools that you have already purchased are working their butts off to put AI into their tool already, so maybe you already have what you need. And then finally, last resort, consider a new tool, because God knows we don't need yet another shiny object. Just looking at the top 50 generative products, I was thinking about my own company, Content Monsta. Now, we create content for ourselves and for lots of businesses, and we only use about 8 of these. I mean, we use OpenAI, we use 11 Labs and Kling and a few others, but even out of this top 50 list, an agency who does this for themselves and for other companies doesn't use 50 tools. So you don't want to be this cat, right? Always chasing after the next AI tool because it's going to be a never-ending loop. You won't get any work done. That's what we're trying to avoid. And then we bring in automation. So I want to be clear on, this isn't a complicated thing you got to figure out. It's much more simple than you may have thought it was. And basically it's just if this, then that. Like if this thing happens, or if I do this thing, then do that for me, and then maybe that, and then you come out with an outcome of perhaps, in this case, more or better or faster content. We're talking about automation, not agents. Agents are great, they're dynamic and flexible and they have their reasoning, but I don't trust it for critical work yet, right? You wouldn't put your job on the line for something that is still being tested, that you're gonna say, go out there and do my job, communicate with people, create work for me, and then I'm gonna stand up for that? Like, you don't know yet. Now, there are simple tasks you can give an agent to say, hey, every Monday morning, go out and find these headlines and give me some ideas. That could be called an agent. But for the more complicated agents, and we get into things like MCPs or modal context protocols, I think that's right, that's too much. So for now, we're talking about automation. And the goal here is not to give you another list, as I said, you're already overwhelmed. It's to open your mind about what you can do when you connect AI and then automate it, right? So you know you have all these tools. We're gonna show you about automation. And then the magic, I call it the magic box, comes in when you can take these tools and put them together. We're going to talk about a few terms real quick to make sure we set what we're talking about. No-code automation, basically, To simplify and make sure you're not afraid of what the idea of automation is, it's just basically a flow chart. If you can create a flow chart, write it down, or in PowerPoint, if you can plan a flow chart, you can plan an automation. At its core, that's all it is. It's a plan of automation. If this, then that. Basically, you have a trigger. You want the automation to do this, and then when that's done, do that, and when that's done, do that. And some of these steps could be AI steps, and some could just be processes. So you think about this, it could get really long, really deep, but really it comes down to if this happens, then that happens. And some of those thises and that's can be AI. Quick terminology check. No code, of course, is you can use plain English to drag and drop and create a program or automation. That's what makes it so easy. That's why the things have changed so much right now, because we don't need to be coders to do some of these things that were complicated. This is the one term that sounds way techier than it probably is. It's an API. I mention it because I'm going to say a lot today, a lot in the next 30 minutes, is that an API basically allows two programs to talk to each other, to exchange information, to say, hey, I've got this information, I'm going to share it with you, and then you give me this information back, and we're going to trade off between programs. That's all an API is. It's two software programs communicating and sharing information. For me, that's one of the key things I look for when I buy software. Does it have APIs? I don't want to buy software that's just black box that I can't get information in or out of. So when you're purchasing software, think about one of your main things should be, do you have an API? And then there's vibe coding, which is basically what I do when I don't have an API. I figure it out. I go to ChatGPT or to an AI and say, hey, I need to connect this thing to that thing. They don't have an API. How do I get it to work? I did this a few weeks ago where the answer was, well, Lee, you need to know JSON programming language to get this to there because they don't have an API. I'm like, I do not know JSON. I know just enough HTML to hack, but not enough, don't know JSON. But I vibe coded my way through it, ended up with a page and a half of code, and it worked. These two programs were sending information back and forth and getting things done, and I still don't know JSON, but I got it to work. So here's the thing. Rather than give you a bunch of tools, I want you to think about the tools you have and what you can do with them. I'll mention the tools that I use, but I want you to even take notes now and think, okay, I have this tool. Here's how I can tie it to another tool I have and use what you have. So for me, from an automation standpoint, I prefer Zapier. One, because I'm kind of old school. I've been using it a long time. I was a marketing automation person, and I used Zapier a long time. Now you have tools like Make and N8N and Active Pieces and probably dozens others. So whenever I mention Zapier, just plug in your favorite one, okay? And then it's the AI part. Your favorite could be an OpenAI product, could be Claude, could be Gemini. You may be stuck with Copilot because you're at Microsoft. Sorry, Microsoft. And then you think about the actual content. I prefer to start most of our content creation with video because it's so fruitful. We can get audio and text and sentiment, all these things from video, so it's a great place to start. So remember, as I go through these things, plug in what you use and take some notes and say, hey, you know what? I could plug this into that and get this thing done, all right? So somebody's asking, well, Lee, which one do you prefer and why? Why do you prefer Zapier? I threw this up there just to show you, to me, it's pretty obvious. Zapier has 6,000 plus connections. So no vibe coding for me, rarely, because connections are already built in. Make has the coolest interface. I'm jealous because it looks good, but then it has a way fewer connections already built in. N8N is for you coders out there who love to code and want to do more complicated stuff. You're already looking to code anyway, so maybe you don't need 6,000 connections. You can build your own. I don't want to build anything. I use Zapier. And then, of course, the learning curve on Zapier is just way easier than N8N. So there's a use for all of them, depending on where you are. I mentioned the interface. Make has the coolest interface. They have these nice little bubbles. N8N has nodes, like some kind of a schematic. I use Zapier. It's basically just the old school diagram. And so the examples I'm going to show you are going to be Zapier ones. But no matter what, keep in mind, if I mention a step or a module or a node, it's all the same thing depending on which platform decide to use. Some are vertical, some are horizontal. It's still building steps. Okay, this was a late slide that I added in because I was like, wow, it made me go, wow. The number of tasks that I had done for me automatically in Zapier in these 2 different weeks, 145 on one, and I think it was 360 some on a different day. These were tasks that I had forgotten about. I hadn't thought about doing them. They were just getting done without me because they were programmed months before to happen. I'll give you an example. So LinkedIn and TikTok lead in content monster. Okay, so what this is, when an editor, one of our editors drops some video shorts in a folder in Google Drive, that's the last time somebody touches it. From there, it gets the text written, it gets scheduled, it gets posted. Now these things can be done by the tools, but it's like 3 or 4 tools, and then the writing part requires somebody to be involved. So all these things are done automatically. So evidently I had quite a few of those done in 1 week. We have automations that go to podcasts where it writes the descriptions and the show notes and all these things. And it doesn't just pass it to another human to use AI to do it. It actually does it and goes on to the next step and posts it live. So this is just an example of one of my weeks of some of the things I have automated for either myself or my company that I don't have to worry about. I had a VA recently make this really evident to me when she said, okay, great, I'll take this task and I'll do these 5 things. I'll get it done by the end of the week. I was like, wait a minute, we already automated those 5 things and it'll be done this morning. So when it comes to the debate of replacing jobs, I said, well, at least that task, don't do it anymore because we've already automated it. We don't need you to do it. The repetitive task, it can do it better than you can, and it's today or tonight. It doesn't take any time off. So I'm going to give you 3 quick case studies of things that we're actually doing. And again, think about your tools, your cases, your types of content, and how you can use it to make your process better and faster. So 1 long video to multiple complete. I highlighted complete because I don't mean just creating clips. I mean writing the context for them, comparing it to your brand, to your voice, writing it, putting it into your social media platform, scheduler, and sending it out. All that stuff, that's complete from a video. Drafting content, approval process, and then also talk about how to take an article and create a YouTube video script from that in an automated fashion. So I'm gonna go a little bit faster here because time's moving on. Get this deck because I'm gonna give examples that you're gonna want to take my examples that could be in Zapier and replicate it in whatever tool you use, whether it be Make or N8N or whatever it may be. I learned also you can take a picture of a QR code and touch it later on in your app and it actually still works. I don't know, that caught me off guard there, so that's a cool thing. Not AI or automation, it's just lead it and know something. So, first one, video to social. Here are some of the tasks that are streamlined in what I'm about to show you. The video editor's tasks are streamlined, the social media copywriter, the content scheduler, and the project manager. These are all tasks that are about to be streamlined by this automation. And I like to say you go from long video into our magic box, and out comes text, clips, and its schedule. So how does the magic box work? So, first of all, after using AI to make clips of long video, we drop those clips into a folder. Now, this particular step I didn't add in here because Opus Clips that we use doesn't have an API yet. It's in beta, but it's not there. So and plus, the second reason is that's where I like a human in the loop. I want a human to look at those clips and decide which clips are the best, maybe adjust the endpoint, the output. So either way, we would have had a human there. But when those 4 or 5 clips are chosen, they're dropped into a Google Drive. That is a trigger. The trigger is when you see a new file in this folder, do this, then that. So the trigger is new file hits that folder. Then we use Assembly AI, which is a transcription AI application. It sees that and says, okay, I'm gonna take each clip, I'm gonna transcribe it. We're doing that because we don't want to create random ChatGPT information. We want it to stick to what was said in that clip. That way those original thoughts, that thought leadership is captured and it's not just random, non-branded, non-unique information. Then from there, ChatGPT writes a platform-specific post based purely on the transcript and brand style. Not just a generic ChatGPT answer, it is based on what knowledge we've given it about our voice, our brand, and it has the specific words in that video clip. Then that text and video are paired together. This is one challenge that we were so happy to overcome was, okay, you got this transcript over here, you got a video over there, you got to tie them back together to post them. Well, because the automation is aware of the previous steps, it can say, okay, take the video from step 1 and the text output from step 3, put them together and put them in the scheduler for Tuesday at 3 p.m. So now it all comes back together and you have that post. And then you can also say, hey team, by the way, I love it when I get an email, my email blows up and says, hey Lee, you got 5 new posts waiting for you to look at or approve or scheduled. So you can send that to Slack or to an email. Let's talk about how that would look if you were setting it up. Now it will look a little bit different depending on Make or N8N or Zapier, but in this case, here's what it looks like. So first we select the tool. In this case, I'm going to select ChatGPT. Then I'm going to say, well, the action is I'm going to have a conversation with ChatGPT. Now, this is what it looks like when you are setting up an automation in one of these tools. You have to give it instructions of what you want it to do and give it permission to connect to that account. Had this been a Google connection, it may say, hey, go to this Google folder, and here's access to my Google Drive, so you can go there and do this thing. And then there's going to be configuration for that step. In this case, for example, luckily with OpenAI, I can still choose older models because I may want to use 4.0 for writing or 5 for thinking. I can choose the legacy models because on the back end, using APIs, I'm not limited to what's on the front end of ChatGPT. Then I insert a prompt. In this case, I have 2 routes. Either I put the prompt in here, or I point it out to, and I'm going to show you in a moment, a different way to prompt that we can attach files to, like our branding. For me, I would attach my whole book to one of these so it can write based on what I've already written in my own book. And then note my guidelines. My guidelines here basically are telling it, stick to the transcript. Don't come up with anything new. Don't make up anything. Don't get creative. Only write based on what was said in this video clip. Because when we're doing this stuff for clients and for ourselves, we don't want it to come up with something new. The text on that LinkedIn or YouTube post is about that particular clip, right? So it can't go off script. And the result is this. Video clips are done into shorts. We have copy written to specs. The video's been uploaded, scheduled on multiple channels. This is actually my social media calendar. That post is from November. So if you follow me on LinkedIn, you'll see that happen in November because I just happened to grab a random one and say, oh, it's from the future. I'm talking before November, so you'll see that when it happens. I should also say too that these are all different channels, right? It's not just like my LinkedIn. This is YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook. These are all ones, and they're all specified to what time. For example, YouTube, I might post one every single day or multiple per day because that's YouTube. For LinkedIn, it could be 1 per day. For TikTok, it could be whatever the hell I want to because it doesn't matter. So everyone is sent specifically, and these could be things you set in your settings as to when it posts or what time it posts. All right, another one we're going to do. Content approval workflow. I put in the Content Marketing World Slack channel, like what are some of the problems marketers are having, and maybe I can add it to my presentation. And someone said, oh, content approval workflow. That's a problem. Can you solve that with AI? Well, if you could, you would streamline your project management, your change tracking, your version management. And so what it would look like is you'd have your draft, you put it into your magic box, and then you have a list of approvals. That'd be great, wouldn't it? Psych, not possible. Neither AI or automation will fix a bad people process. That isn't something you're going to throw AI at. You got to fix your people first. And so when I realized that I couldn't tackle that as an answer, I started writing. So grab that article, just bookmark it. You click on that, it'll take you straight to the article. It's not gated or anything. I wrote that article that goes through how to speed up your approval process, how to fix your people problem, and not try to throw AI at it, because AI is not the solution for everything. In this case, get your people straight first. Now, you may say, well, where AI and automation, where can it help? Well, in this case, look at the software you already have, specifically your project management tools, and look at the AI that you already have within those tools. Whether you use ClickUp or Notion or Monday or Trello, whatever you use, One, all of these are adding AI into it. They already have AI into it. They already have automations. They already have things you can do in the software. And then here's the key, because part of the problem with approvals is that executive who leaves it on his desk for a whole week or doesn't care about your deadline, right? So, and they also may not use these tools. They use their email for the most part. They may not want to touch your project management system. So what you do is you tie in these project management systems so they send alerts, perhaps via email, to that executive who refuses to leave Outlook, right? They get an alert that says, hey, this has reached a certain stage, we need your approval. And then they can respond back, and you can put that data back into your automation. So the point here is that you may not be able to get all of your team, especially the approvers, to use your tools that are built into your automation. So first fix your people process, and then use the tools that they will use and tie those into your existing processes. Here's a workflow example. You have a task or a card I use ClickUp, in your project management tool. Once that's created, send an email to your first approver. That approver gets an email that says, hey, when you approve this, just reply back with approved. That you can hook in as a trigger that your AI recognizes. If you get an email back that says approve, then go to step 2. You recognize it's been approved by the CMO, now send it to the CEO, for example. And then they do the same thing, they get it, and so on and so forth, till you get to a point where when approver 3 replies, then it's fully done. Then you can trigger other things in your project management to say, hey, team leader, this thing's been fully approved, go on to the next stage if you need to. Here's the key though, only allow comments on the content or object in the project tool, never email. Because if they don't approve, I'm sure you say, well, Lee, you said approve, approve, approve. What if they don't approve and they go, you know what, I really don't like the color red, can you change this? And that's a response back in the email. You should look for tools like, for example, Frame.io or even Google Drive, anywhere you can say, look, here's a link to this Google Doc, make your comments there. Here's a link to Frame.io, make your video comments there. That way it's maintained in one place. If they don't approve it to continue on in your process, at least they put it in one place, and the person, you, managing the project, sees all the comments in one place, and then you can go back and tick your project management tool to say, this was approved or we have changes. That way you only have 2 places to deal with. One, your project management tool, and 2, your review area of the document itself. And there should be links from your project management tool to that document or to that Frame.io, to that place where you're all doing the editing. All right, 3rd task, article to pre-approved script. Content repurposing will be streamlined, your video script writing is streamlined, YouTube optimization is already considered, and your brand management is considered. Published article, magic box, out comes a script ready for you to read into the camera. Here's an important note. If you've already published an article, if your company's putting out blog articles, you're publishing lots of content, it's already been through the ringer. It's already been approved. So why have to create a new piece of content that nobody's seen, nobody's approved, especially in a regulated industry? You might have been through legal already. Why go back to the beginning? So if you have an article, it's already approved. So now let's just change that enough to make it a script to say to camera and make a video out of it. Let's automate that. So here's something I've done that has really worked for us and some of our clients. We look at videos that are working either with competitors or people whose videos you like. For me, I do instructional content on YouTube about marketing, and so I said, well, who do I watch who teaches me content marketing or marketing things? So I go to theirs and I said, you know what, let me pull all 4 videos of theirs, and either use Gemini or I pull a transcript for them and say, analyze this video. What is their structure? What do they say? In what case do they use this structure versus that structure? Are they educational? Do they have bullet points? Do they have CTAs or callouts? What's working? Because these videos obviously are working, so I want to know what's working, and I'm going to take these 4 or 5 and create that. So once you've done that, you would name them by creator. So I have these 4. These are 4 I actually use. I think I changed their names to protect the innocent and guilty. But whenever I say I have a new article, it'll go, that's a great article, Lee. Here's a framework that fits that article best. In that article, you pointed out 3 ways to automate your content. That would fit great on Will. Use the Will template because that's the step-by-step expert that delivers clear sequential steps, right? So it's going to say, okay, you've already defined what your format should be. Here's an example. It's going to take that script. It's going to write a script based on the article I already wrote. It's already approved through your systems and make the article. So then you write a prompt. And it may be in your automation flow. This could be in Zapier as well. This is my prompt, or part of it anyway. I'm creating a structured video script designed specifically for marketing leaders. The goal is to clearly communicate practical solutions in an engaging, easy-to-follow format optimized for YouTube best practices. Ask me for an article to reference. It may say, hey, Lee, I don't have this in an automation, so what article do you want to use? I'll drop in the URL, and it does its thing. And I'll tell it if I don't have an article, then ask me for one. And it continues because my prompt is long, because I don't want to do average content. That prompt knows me, it knows my book, it knows my other information, it knows what I do, what I talk about, where I've been, and it has examples of what I want the output video to look like. I could even tweak that from time to time based on what videos worked on YouTube for me. So don't stop at just a generic prompt. Make sure it's tied to something that knows you or your brand. If you're working in a company, you absolutely have to have your brand voice. If you're writing it for a particular person in your company, understand their voice and how they talk, what they would typically say. Now, you could stop here and have an awesome semi-manual process that says, what article do you want to do this for? And if you only do it every now and then, that would be fine. But let's automate this as well. So the step 4 is you run an automation that looks for each new article published on your website. So you don't have to go out and say, do we have any new information, new articles? Your trigger would be, look on the website, and if something gets published, start this process. It sees a new article, it reads the article, it pulls in all the text, and then it writes a script based on the article, right? It can pull the title, it can make a script based on the persona or the style you want. It covers everything in the article. It isn't going outside your guidelines because you told it, make it about this article, we're covering this article, don't make up anything, don't hallucinate, don't say anything that we wouldn't say. Even if your rules say don't use jargon, if that article used jargon, it might actually fit in the video because you said stick to this article. And then you also store it somewhere, put it in a drive, Google Drive somewhere, so you have the hard copy of this script and say, hey, video team, we got a new video script for you, go do your thing. And this is automated from the moment that somebody hits publish on an article. Now that speeds things up as well because nobody's looking to see what is our next video, because as soon as you hit publish on your website, this happens and a script pops out in a few minutes to say, hey, don't forget to repurpose that video, that article into a video. Think about how many times we forget to repurpose something. If you automate it, you don't skip that step, you don't miss it because it says, hey, go do this thing right now. Okay, so what you get is your approved article becomes a video, and then you have a video for YouTube. That video can be added back to the article. Now the article's been refreshed, and if you put in like some old articles, for example, now you have new content in that old article. You have a new version, the article's updated, and you have a new video to refresh that content and widen your footprint of you talking about that thing. So now you have more content in more places without having to go through another approval process because it was already approved in the first place. And then finally, you got social shorts. So now you started with the website with an article, now you have a YouTube video, then you have a video for your website, you refresh some articles, and then you can also split that up back to automation number 1 and create a bunch of shorts that automatically get scheduled back out. Full circle here, and you've got tons more content that most importantly is not AI slop because it's based on what you already did, what your people actually said from video you actually recorded. A step further, I found this along the way when we were building some of the automations for ourselves was I wanted to use custom GPTs to do these things because a custom GPT could have, like I said, my book in there, could have your knowledge of your company, could have your brand guidelines. Well, you can't really go directly to a custom GPT and do that. But if you have a ChatGPT account or OpenAI account, when you log in, right here, you don't have to go into ChatGPT. You can go into the API platform. We know what an API is. It lets us communicate between applications. You go into there, and now you can say, you can choose your model. You can future-proof your updates if you want to change your model. If the model's changed, like when 5.0 came out, a lot of us had holy crap moments because it didn't do what we thought it did back in 4.0. You can command what you want it to be. And here's the best part. You can upload details, brand guidelines, and style guides, right? That way it doesn't go off the rails no matter what, because you said, only write this way, only say these things, only this is how our company talks. So that's a bonus. As I wrap up here, I'll give you a couple bonus ideas, something that actually happened to us. We have begun doing more and more B-roll without having to go shoot the B-roll, because we had a situation of we were shooting for a large company, and the reason why they chose us, Content Monsta, was because they had executives all over the country. They wanted to film talking head videos from these guys all over the country, and they said, how do we do that? Well, Content Monsta specializes in remote video production. But the problem was they wanted B-roll, which kind of defeats the purpose of being remote if you got to go on site to shoot B-roll. So what we did was we went to their website, and they already had a lot of stock images. We took those stock photos and animated them. So for B-roll, you only need 2 or 3 seconds. And the beauty was it kept their logos. So it was real B-roll. Now, I couldn't use the actual stuff for reasons because they're our clients, but this is an example of a brand we all know. Now, this one even has a little bit of errors in it, but I just did it real quick to prove a point, to where if your client was McDonald's and you needed a quick HR video with some B-roll, go to the website, pull a photo, it's still McDonald's without having to schedule a shoot. So this idea came to us when actually one of my editors did a video for me, and he dropped in 7 AI clips without telling me. Towards the end, I said, hey man, this clip, that was AI, wasn't it? He's like, yeah, it was. But you know how I knew it was AI? Because it was more specific than any stock video could have been. The point I was making in the video was about remote production and how you don't want to have to disturb your office with a bunch of equipment. And it had an executive in the office pulling his hair out, because there's a bunch of flight cases in his office. I was like, we couldn't have found stock video of that specific thing, but he made it. And the joke was on me because there were 7 other clips in that video that I didn't even notice. So now we realized, okay, we got a new thing now, all right? So in that case, we use a company photo, animated it. We use Kling, I think, in this case. We also use Midjourney sometimes, but it's a great way to fill in your content. I got about 3 minutes left. The point is, AI plus automation, start with your process first. Don't start with AI. Find out what are our steps. What are our if this, then that. It could be if Joan does this, she passes it to Jim, and then Jim passes it to Jill. That's a process you could probably automate. What are my current tools? Look in those tools for what you already have AI implemented with. And then what can I connect? I've got these 3 or 4 great tools. I have human if this, then that between these tools. How about I connect them with APIs so that those tools can work on their own? All right, that's it for me. That is another, thank you. Thank you. So that's the slide deck again. Connect with me on LinkedIn or YouTube. And also in the bookstore, my book, Cash, it stands for Communication, Alignment, Systems, and Honesty. It's written so that marketers can understand sales, and for us, so sales can understand marketing. All right, so we can help keep our jobs by speaking the sales language, the books in the bookstore. So thank you all again, and I hope you can work smarter next week. Thanks.